Good morning, students. Students, today we are going to start our next chapter, that is matter around us pure. It is second chapter in your textbook and second chapter of chemistry. So today we will study about matter and the properties of matter. But before that, I want to remind all of you that you have to submit all assignments given to you today itself. सो जिन भी बच्चों ने अपने असाइनमेंट्स कंप्लीट नहीं किए, अपना होमवर्क कंप्लीट नहीं किया है, आज ही मुझे सबमिट करवा दें. सो लेट अस स्टार्ट विद दिस चैप्टर, इज मैटर अराउंड अस प्योर. So these are the learning objectives of the chapter. After reading this chapter, you have to define pure and impure substances at particulate level, and you must be able to define solute and solvent. You will be able to define different types of mixture and compare their properties. You will be able to understand the concept concentration of mixture in terms of mass. Then you will be able to understand and explain the principles behind simple physical methods for separation of different types of compounds, different types of components. Then you will be able to critically analyze separation techniques like distillation and separation of components of air, and understand how combination of simple physical methods can be amalgamated to design better techniques. Then you will be able to critically examine the particles which produce matter and would be defined elements, compounds and mixture, and general properties of metals, non-metals and metalloids. So all of you know the nature of matter. Now let us identify what is the meaning of word pure. As mentioned in title of this chapter, is matter around us pure. So what is the meaning of the word pure? So students, have you ever noticed the word pure written on the packets of some consumable items? See, these are some consumable items like salt, ghee, milk, butter, some spices. The word pure हमेशा उन पे लिखा रहता है, प्योर घी, प्योर मिल्क, प्योर कर्ड, प्योर सॉल्ट. What does pure here mean? For a common person, pure means having no adulteration. मतलब उसमें कोई मिलावट ना हो तो उसके लिए वो प्योर है. But for a scientist, all these things are actually mixture, not pure substances. ना अगर प्योर घी है, प्योर घी is never pure for a scientist. Pure milk is never pure substance for a scientist. एक common man बोल सकता है it is pure, क्योंकि उसके लिए pure का meaning क्या है कि ये adulteration free है, मतलब उसमें कोई मिलावट नहीं है. But a scientist will never say that this substance is pure. For him, the substance will be mixture. So what is the difference between a pure substance and a mixture? Let us study. So for a scientist, when he says that something is pure, it means that all the constituent particles of that particular substance are the same in their chemical nature. So milk is actually a mixture of water, fat, proteins, etc. for him. Milk is not pure for a scientist. So a pure substance consists of a single type of particles. In other words, we can say a substance is a pure single form of matter. A pure substance means a single substance or matter which cannot be separated into other kinds of matter by any physical process. All of you know what are the physical processes of separation of different substances. You already had studied about these processes in your previous classes. So student, pure substances cannot be separated with the help of those physical processes. You can easily understand this concept with the help of this video. Let us see.
Oops. Look at the car, it's completely rusted. It was a great shot, dude. cutting wood, and melting ice are examples of physical changes. On the other hand, the rusting of iron, burning of wood, and eggs cooked into an omelette are examples of chemical changes. Hey, I will show you something. This is a physical change. Let me burn this. I need some charcoal. Now this is a chemical change.
There are two types of changes, physical and chemical. Physical changes are temporary, and chemical changes are permanent. Substances can undergo either physical or chemical changes to form new substances. In this lesson, you will learn about elements, mixtures, and compounds. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define physical and chemical changes, identify the types of change, given an example, define pure substances and mixtures, list the properties of elements, mixtures, and compounds, and categorize substances into elements, mixtures, and compounds. Have you ever observed an ice cube kept outside the refrigerator for some time?
Ice melts and changes to water.
Yes, there is a change in the state of the ice cube. Now, let's do a small experiment. For this, we need to take 2 beakers with 20 grams of sugar and label them as A and B. Let's add some water to beaker A and stir it. In beaker B, we will add a little sulfuric acid. Now, observe what happens in beaker A. The sugar gets dissolved in water. In beaker B, sugar reacts with sulfuric acid and black sugar charcoal is formed. From this, we can say that the change that has taken place in beaker A is a physical change, whereas the change that has taken place in beaker B is a chemical change. In beaker A, we can get back the sugar by the evaporation of water. On the other hand, in beaker B, we cannot get back the sugar from the carbon.
इस कुकी की तरह हम सब के बीच एक
Conclude that there are two types of changes, physical change and chemical change.
How do we define a physical and a chemical change?
After observing the experiment, we can define a physical change as a temporary change in which the composition of the substance remains same and no new substance is formed, but only a change of state occurs. Melting of ice, breaking of glass, tearing of paper, cutting of wood, and changing of water to water vapor are examples of physical change. Likewise, we can define a chemical change as a permanent change in which a new substance is formed that has properties which are different from the original substance. For example, formation of water from hydrogen and oxygen atoms, rusting of iron, burning of wood, lighting of firecrackers, burning of a matchstick. You might have observed the word pure written on the packing of consumables like milk, mineral water, fruit juice, etc. What does the word pure mean to you?
It means having no adulteration.
That's right, but for a chemist, none of these substances are pure. For example, milk is a mixture of water, fat, and proteins. Mineral water, according to the label, has calcium chloride, magnesium sulfate, and sodium sulfate. If it were really pure water, in the scientific meaning of the word, it should contain only water molecules. For a chemist, the purity of a substance means the substance is made up of only one type of a particle. The particles may be atoms or molecules. For example, the element iron is made of only one kind of a particle called iron atoms. So iron is a pure substance. From this, we can define a pure substance as a substance which is made of only one kind of a particle. For example, iron, aluminium, silver, and gold.
Presenting Amazon Prime.
So I hope students now it is clear to you that what is a pure substance. So matter can be classified like this on the basis of physical state of matter. It can be classified into three main types: solids, liquids, and gases. In first chapter you already had studied about this. And on the basis of chemical composition, matter is classified into two main types. They are pure substances and mixtures. So pure substances are of two types: elements and compounds. And mixtures are also of two types. They are homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. So you will draw this flow chart in your notebook. There is one more flow chart. See this: types of substances. Matter can be classified as pure substances and mixture. Pure substances can be classified into elements and compounds. Elements are also of three types: metals, non-metals, and metalloids. Other form of matter is mixture. Mixtures are of two types: homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. Homogeneous mixture are actually true solutions, and heterogeneous mixture are of two types: colloids and suspension. So in our next chapter you will study about the composition of pure substances, which are made up of one kind of atoms only. So you will study about atom in next chapter. So let us study about pure substances and mixture. So pure substances are actually substances which consist of a single type of substances, that is elements or compounds. For example, iron, copper, hydrogen, oxygen, water, sugar, common salt, etc. They are pure substances. And mixture? Mixture is a substance which consists of two or more pure substances. For example, seawater, we can say it is a mixture of different salts, water and salts, minerals, soil, air. You know the composition of air, different type of gases, some dust particles, some water vapors. It is actually mixture of different types of components. Sand, salt, sugar in water, salt in water. Actually salt in water is a mixture. So let us study what is the main difference between pure substance and mixture. So you have to write this like this. First point of difference which you can write, that pure substance consists of a single type of substances, a single type of particles, whereas mixture consists of two or more pure substances. Second point of difference is, pure substance cannot be separated into other substances by physical method. अभी आपने वीडियो में देखा था what are the physical methods by which we can separate different components of a mixture. But in case of pure substance, we cannot separate different components by physical methods. Single type के substances, single type के particles होते हैं which we cannot separate with the help of physical processes. ठीक है? And mixture can be separated into its component by physical processes. For example, if we take example of evaporation, if we boil water, vaporization, if we boil water or we heat the ice cubes will get converted into liquid form, and again when we will heat that water, liquid water, they will get converted into vapors. So mixture can be separated into its different constituent by physical method. है ना, यहाँ हम प्योर वाटर की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. अगर हम सेलाइन वाटर ले लेते हैं जिसमें सॉल्ट डिसॉल्व है, तो वेपोराइजेशन से वाटर वेपर्स में फॉर्म हो जाएगा और उड़ जाएगा, जबकि सॉल्ट पीछे रह जाएगा. तो एक फिज़िकल प्रोसेस है सेपरेशन के डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स की, लेकिन ये सिर्फ किस में पॉसिबल है? मिक्सचर में. Then third point of difference is, Pure substance has its own definite properties, whereas mixture shows the properties of its components. Pure substances क्योंकि एक ही तरह के particles से बना होता है तो उसकी अपनी ही एक definite properties होती हैं, whereas mixture is formed with the different types of components. That mixture shows the properties of its different components. Now let us study different types of pure substances. So pure substances are of two types. They are elements and compounds. Elements is a basic form of matter which cannot be broken down into simpler substances by chemical reaction. Elements are of three types. They are metals, non-metals and metalloids. So what are the properties of metals? You already studied about metals, their properties. याद आ रहा है आपको कुछ? मेटल्स आर लस्ट्रस, दे आर malleable, they are ductile, they are good conductor of heat and electricity, they are sonorous, है ना? And some examples are given: iron, aluminium, zinc, mercury, copper, silver, gold. You already had studied about different properties of metals. And then what are non-metals? They are actually non-lustrous, they are non-malleable, they are not ductile, poor conductor of heat and electricity. These are the properties of non-metals. They are not sonorous. For example, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, iodine, carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. All these are non-metals. And what are metalloids? You must have knowledge about all these terms because in class 8 you already had studied about the properties of metals, non-metals and metalloids. Yes, metalloids are elements which show some properties of metals and some properties of non-metal. For example, boron, silicon, germanium, etc. are some examples of non-metals. So these are the properties of metals. You can pause this video and note down the properties. अगर आपको याद नहीं है तो metals are solid at room temperature और exceptions are always there. Mercury एक ऐसा metal है which is found in the form of liquid. And metals have a crystal lattice, that is their atom are closely packed. फर्स्ट चैप्टर में भी आपने पढ़ा था कि किस तरह की फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी होती है मेटल्स की. उनके पार्टिकल्स क्लोजली पैक्ड होते हैं. दे आर हार्ड, दे आर लस्ट्रस, चमक होती है उनमें. एंड मेटल्स आर गुड कंडक्टर ऑफ हीट एंड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. दे आर malleable. All of you know what is malleability. Their ability to be beaten into sheets. They are ductile. That means they can be converted into thin wires. And metals are sonorous. What does that mean? They are sound producing. अगर हम उनको हिट करेंगे they will produce sound. And metals have high melting and boiling points. You already had studied about this. Now these are some properties of non-metals. They are either gases or solids at room temperature. So non-metals generally have full surfaces. Non-metals are mostly poor conductors of heat and electricity. They are not hard. They are quite soft. इतने soft होते हैं कि we can easily cut them with the help of some knife or other metal. They are non-malleable. We cannot beat them to convert into sheets. They are non-ductile. They cannot be converted into what? Wires. है ना? Non-metals are non-sonorous. If we will hit them, they will not produce sound. And they have low melting and boiling point. है ना? अगर थोड़ा सा heat करेंगे, they will start melting and boiling. So let us study what is compound. Before proceeding to compound, see this video.
Substances that are opposite to pure are mixtures.
For a chemist, when a substance contains more than one type of a particle, it is known as a mixture. For example, salt solution is made up of two components, salt and water. Therefore, salt solution is a mixture.
There are over 100 known elements on Earth.
A pure substance which is made up of only one kind of atom and cannot be broken into two or more simpler substances by physical or chemical means is referred to as an element. For example, iron, gold, and silver.
How does one identify the elements? Do they have any typical properties?
Yes, they do have typical properties. Let's look at some of the characteristics of elements. An element is homogeneous in nature. It is a pure substance, made up of only one kind of atom. For example, iron and silver are made of only iron and silver atoms. An element cannot be broken down into simpler substances by any physical or chemical methods.
Students, you have to take notes from all these videos. So whenever we will meet on Google Meet, I will ask to show these notes. So be prepared. Take notes from here. Write down on notebooks.
ग्रामर हो या vocabulary?
This aluminium is a metal. And their properties. Metals are the elements which readily lose electrons to form positive ions or cations. For example, sodium, an alkali metal, loses an electron and forms positively charged sodium ion. Let's observe some of the properties of metals. Metals have luster. When freshly cut, they show metallic luster. For example, gold. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. As metals have free electrons in them, they are able to conduct heat and electricity. For example, copper. Metals are malleable, meaning they can be hammered into thin sheets. For example, aluminium. Metals are ductile, which means they can be drawn into wires. For example, copper. Metals are sonorous. They give a ringing sound when they are hit by a hard iron rod. For example, copper. Almost all metals are solids except mercury, which is a liquid at room temperature.
Is sodium chloride a metal?
No, it's not. Let me tell you about nonmetals. They are the elements which readily gain electrons to form negative ions or anions. For example, chlorine accepts electrons from a metal like sodium and forms a negatively charged chloride anion.
Like metals, do nonmetals also have properties?
Yes, of course. Let's look at some of the properties of nonmetals. Nonmetals usually show some or all of the following properties. They do not exhibit luster. Nonmetals are bad conductors of heat and electricity. They do not contain free electrons in them, so they do not conduct heat and electricity. For example, sulfur. They are not malleable. They cannot be drawn into sheets. For example, sulfur and phosphorus. Nonmetals are non-ductile. They cannot be drawn into wires. For example, phosphorus. They are not sonorous. When hit by any hard substance, they do not produce any sound. For example, carbon. Nonmetals exist in all the three states. Thus, 11 nonmetals are gases. Only bromine is a liquid, and the others are solids. The elements which have intermediate properties between those of metals and nonmetals are called metalloids. They are amphoteric in nature. Metalloids react both with acids and bases. For example, boron, silicon, and germanium.
Are water and carbon dioxide gases, not mixtures?
No.
Why? If we take the example of water, it is made up of two kinds of atoms.
Yes, you are right. Water is made up of oxygen and hydrogen atoms, but still, it is a pure substance.
How?
Water and carbon dioxide are examples of compounds.
Compounds? Another set of substances.
No, not quite. A compound is a pure substance that is composed of two or more elements chemically combined.
Okay, now we will study about second form of pure substance, that is compound. So compound is a pure substance containing two or more elements which are combined together in a fixed proportion by mass. Types of compounds. There are two types of compounds. Inorganic compounds, which are obtained from non-living sources such as rocks and minerals. For example, salt we get from sea, non-living. Carbon dioxide, ammonia, etc. These are inorganic substances. And organic compounds are those compounds which are obtained from living beings such as plants, animals. For example, methane, ethane, alcohol, sugar, etc. They are obtained from living beings, plants. So what are the characteristics of compounds? A pure compound is composed of the same elements combined in a fixed ratio by mass. And a pure compound is homogeneous in nature, and it is formed as a result of chemical reaction between the constituent elements. Properties of the compounds are altogether different from the elements from which it is formed. As you know that compound is formed from different elements. So constituent of a compound cannot be separated mechanically. With physical processes we cannot separate them. Formation of compound involves energy changes. So let us further see this video to easily understand what are compounds.
Indefinite proportion by weight. For example, water is made up of 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. These atoms combine to form a compound known as water. The smallest particle of water is called a molecule. A molecule is the smallest particle of a compound that still has all the properties of a compound. Water, ammonia, carbon dioxide, and limestone are examples of compounds.
Is salt solution a compound?
No, it is not. Even compounds have similar properties like that of elements. Compounds are composed of 2 or more elements which are chemically bound with one another in fixed proportions. Let's look at some of the characteristics of compounds. A pure chemical compound is homogeneous in nature, made up of the same type of molecules. For example, water contains only molecules of water. A compound can be broken into its constituents. For example, water can be broken into constituent elements, hydrogen and oxygen, by the process of electrolysis. A compound has a fixed composition. For example, a water molecule is always composed of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. A compound has a distinct set of properties which is not similar with the properties of its constituent elements. For example, sodium chloride, table salt, is a harmless substance which is a white crystalline solid. On the other hand, its constituents, sodium, is a grayish-white solid, and chlorine is a greenish-yellow gas that are potentially dangerous. Sodium is a highly reactive metal which catches fire when exposed to air, and chlorine is highly poisonous. From this we can say that compounds exhibit a distinct set of properties. A compound has a sharp melting and boiling point. For example, water has a boiling point of 100 degrees centigrade and a melting point of 0 degrees centigrade.
Hey, what about vegetable salad? I like it. It's so colorful. Is it a mixture?
Yes, you're right. Observe carefully. The salad contains a variety of vegetables like carrot, cucumber, beetroot, tomato, cabbage, and onion. You can segregate each of the vegetables from one another, isn't it?
Yes. So, vegetable salad is a mixture.
A mixture is matter that consists of two or more substances which may be elements, compounds, or both mixed together physically in any proportion, but not chemically combined. For example, air is a mixture of gases like oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc. These gases are not chemically combined with one another and can be separated by suitable means. Based on the distribution of the particles in the mix.
I hope now it is clear what are compounds and what are the properties of compounds. Now let us start with second form of matter, that is mixtures. So all of you know that different types of things, maximum types of things found in nature are actually mixture. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक का ही एक एग्जाम्पल ले लीजिए, सॉइल का एग्जाम्पल ले लीजिए. These things are not single pure substances. They are actually mixture of different types of compounds, different types of substances. So mixture, we can say, contains more than one pure substances. So the combination of two or more substances which are physically mixed and are not chemically combined with each other and may also be present in any proportion. है ना, केमिकली कंबाइन नहीं होते. अगर उनमें केमिकल रिएक्शन होगा तो एक नया सब्सटेंस फॉर्म हो जाएगा, तो उनमें केमिकल रिएक्शन नहीं होता है, बट दे आर फिजिकली मिक्स्ड. वी कैन ईजिली सेपरेट देम विद द हेल्प ऑफ सम फिजिकल प्रोसेस ऑफ सेपरेशन, एंड दे मे बी प्रेजेंट इन एनी प्रोपोर्शन. अनलाइक कंपाउंड्स, वो तो एक फिक्स प्रोपोर्शन में होते हैं ना बाय मास, बट मिक्सचर दे कैन बी प्रेजेंट इन एनी प्रोपोर्शन. सो देर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ मिक्सचर. देखिए टाइप्स ऑफ मिक्सचर, होमोजीनियस मिक्सचर एंड heterogeneous mixture. So homogeneous mixture is actually a mixture which has a uniform composition. The particles of the mixture are not visible by the naked eyes. तो ये अभी आप properties note down कर लीजिए. What is the meaning of uniform composition, वो मैं आपको अभी बताती हूँ. वीडियो में बहुत अच्छे से explain किया है. You can go through that video. What is uniform composition? So these are the properties of homogeneous mixture. A homogeneous mixture has a uniform composition. Particles of the mixture are not visible by the naked eyes. Particles cannot be separated by filtration. The mixture is stable, that means the particles do not settle down. And the path of a beam of light is not visible in mixture. It does not show Tyndall effect. Now what is Tyndall effect? I will explain to you. So some examples are given of homogeneous mixture. For example, mixture of sugar in water, mixture of salt in water, mixture of copper sulfate in water, etc. And what are heterogeneous mixture? Heterogeneous mixture is a type of mixture which has a non-uniform composition. The particles are visible by the naked eyes. The particles can be separated by filtration. Mixture is unstable. The particles settle down. अगर हम कुछ देर के लिए उसको रखेंगे तो particles will settle down. And the path of the beam of light is visible in the mixture. That means it shows Tyndall effect. Some examples are given here: mixture of salt and sand, mixture of sulfur and iron filings, mixture of oil and water, etc. See, you can note down from here what is the difference between mixture and compound in your NCERT notebook, book. NCERT book. This comparison is also given. What is the difference between mixture and compounds? You have to note down this in your notebook. Mixture is a compound of two or more elements or compounds mixed together, whereas compound, it is composed of two or more elements and they are chemically combined together. And mixture is composition of the constituent is not in a fixed ratio. Fixed ratio में नहीं होती है, जबकि composition of elements in a compound is in fixed ratio by its mass. जबकि मिक्सचर में कुछ भी कंपोजिशन हो सकती है. फॉर एग्जांपल इफ़ देयर इज़ अ मिक्सचर ऑफ सैंड एंड सॉइल, तो उसमें 50% हो सकता है, 50% सॉइल हो सकती है, या फिर 70% सैंड एंड 30% सॉइल इज़ ऑल्सो कॉल्ड अ मिक्सचर. थर्ड डिफरेंस, इट शोज द प्रॉपर्टीज फॉर ऑल द कंस्टिट्यूएंट्स. मिक्सचर में के जितने भी कंस्टिट्यूएंट्स होंगे, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू टेक एग्जांपल ऑफ एयर, The air will show the properties of all its constituents: carbon dioxide, oxygen, other gases which are in traces, water vapors, dust particles, है ना. Whereas in compounds, it shows different properties and the constituent elements. For example, अगर वाटर एक कंपाउंड है, H2O है ना, तो हाइड्रोजन की अगर अलग प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं, ऑक्सीजन की अलग प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं, लेकिन क्योंकि वाटर एक कंपाउंड है तो उसमें उसकी अलग ही प्रॉपर्टीज़ होंगी, वो वाली प्रॉपर्टीज़ शोज़ नहीं करेगा जो ऑक्सीजन और हाइड्रोजन की है. And the last point of difference, the components can be separated by physical method in case of mixtures, but in compounds it cannot be separated only by chemical method. So we will study about now we will study about homogeneous mixture, or we can say true solutions. So that's all for today. In our next class we will study about different type of mixtures, homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixtures. आज के लिए इतना ही काफ़ी है. I'm going to send some activities, some assignments to you. After going through this video, you have to do those activities and solve those assignments and send on my personal number. Thank you.